Welcome to Armchair Safari, the daily stream where I find a piece of design online and then we look at it together and try to figure out what is good about this, what should we take away and try to reuse in our designs, what is bad about this, what's something that could probably be improved in their designs and maybe ours as well, and does this work for the end user? And today we got a colorful little example. Today we're looking at something that I hate designing because I suck at it. I've designed tons and tons and tons of dashboards and charts and stuff through over the years. And every time I basically need to go on like Dribble or Layers or something and just look at a bunch of stuff to figure out like what am I gonna do? Because there's just so many possible alternatives. If you want to join in, if you have an opinion, if you want to say something, there's a chat somewhere around this thing, and the design is both in the description below and in the next post. So let's have a look. Let's check out this collection of charts by Jevin Jurchuk. Jesus Christ, I'm never, ever gonna be able to pronounce that. Let's call him Jevin. Snecky at Snecky with double Q's on X. So let's have a look. Let's see what he did. And he did just a bunch of these charts, and they're super freaking cool. They look very colorful, very modern, very cool. I think also, actually, if I remember this correctly, you see, uh, I basically pile these up in my to-do list, and over time, I just end up with a bunch of them. These are even better looking. And over time, I just don't remember like where I got them or how I happen to find them. But look at that. Look at that. He has a bunch of these things. Oh my God, look at these complications for the Apple Watch. Holy crap. Yeah, some of these are really cool. Definitely reusing a lot of style and a lot of stuff. This is super freaking cool as well. This is awesome. All right, so if you want to check out great charts and great tiny design details, like, oh my God, look at this watch, definitely go follow, what was it? Snaky at Snaky double Q's on X. This is also looking really freaking cool. But let's stick to the ones we had, okay? So let's look at the ones that I found originally. So first, let's just go through all of them and see how far we get before we get bored. The first one, decibel meter, really nice. I love the fact that when it's super loud, it's highlighted in this super weird stepwise way. Because if it was just a gradient, you wouldn't really feel it that much. But since it's also heightened, it looks like, oh, there's a step change here that you should be very aware of. And if you know anything about audio, there most definitely is a step change that you should be aware of. I'm not sure it starts at 80. Maybe it does. No clue. Love the color and the contrast here. The contrast is really strong. This is clearly made for a small screen, probably an OLED screen. I would assume this has to do with either the Apple Watch or CarPlay. And it just looks freaking brilliant for that. And even though the contrast is super high, he still managed to use these like outline shaders, the almost like a skeleton loader thing that seems to be prevalent all over the place. And there is a bit of a, yeah, there's a bit of a glow off of this one as well. That's really interesting. All right, so what's good about this? There's a lot good about this. The color scheme is really good. The gradient is really smart. The step function is really nice. Contrast is excellent. The visual hierarchy is excellent. What is bad about this? There's another step change that is missing from this. I'm not quite sure if this is supposed to be like when it comes up in the step change, you get visualized, or if it's there the entire time. So, it could be that it's missing from the design. It could be that it's just missing from this context of the flat image. Don't know. Would this work for the end user? Fuck yeah, that's glorious. All right, and what is this? So this is an air pressure sensor. I think it could be an air humidity sensor. If somebody wants to jump into the chat and tell me, please let me know. I'm not sure what HPA is. Let's Google it and see. Oh, sorry, I mean DuckDuckGo it. Atmospheric pressure, there you go. So this is atmospheric pressure. It's interesting that it would tell you the current pressure and if it's rising or lowering. Not sure if the chart actually makes sense. Now, I grew up on a sailboat, and on a sailboat, you usually have a barometer, which shows you air pressure. And that is a circular dial that just gives you an indication of how far off the average or how far off the norm it is. So it doesn't actually tell you much from the numbers, but what it does do is it very easily gives you a learning experience because you just see on the dial, like, is it to the left, is it to the right? Maybe this is something similar, or maybe it's just not that great. I don't know. There is a problem here, though. I think the color here actually doesn't supply enough contrast. So if you squint a little bit, no, you can totally tell because of the shape of the outline. I'm completely off. You can totally tell this, even if you're completely colorblind or if you're in a dark room far away, you would still be able to tell where the bar is and like in what direction this thing goes. In fact, now that I say that, the fact that I didn't see that immediately kind of worries me. Is my eyesight bad, or is the balance of this design just so damn good? What basically needs to happen for this to really balance out visually is that the pressure and the low needs to be so much stronger than the rising and the high that I perceive this to be stronger than the thick border here, or the opposite could be true. This color could be so much darker than over here that I perceive this to be lower. Yeah, I don't know. The fact that I don't know is super interesting. Definitely something I should learn from by actually picking out the colors and looking at what they look like in like a grid or something. Super interesting that he would end up with a solution like this. Really, really cool. What's bad about this? Indicate it could be even stronger. It could have a shape that is slightly clearer, I think. I mean, even if I squint at it, you can see it, but I'm not sure if it visually does anything to the design. I'm not quite sure what this middle thing here is. Does this work for the end user? I don't know. I don't know enough about air pressure, so I really can't say. I don't understand the context. It looks great though. This is probably the thing that made me want to look at this from the start. So this is a heart zone. This is a heart zone counter or timer, heart zone timer. Let's call it a timer. And I freaking love this. So many like the heart rate monitoring things are clearly made for runners and specific kinds of runners, and they're not that great for regular use or for people who do other things than run. And even though this kind of looks like it's also like a running thing, I would love to see this snaky head of the timer thing just plop to a different level. I think this makes so much sense. I think it's beautiful, and it's also super retro. It's a very 70s groovy Motown kind of vibe to it. Absolutely love that. And while that's going on, like if we just discard the visuals and just squint out a little bit and think about the visual hierarchy and whatnot, all of that is just super excellent. So this is just a really, really good design, and it has a very compelling visual element to it. So I'm super impressed by this. What's good about this? A lot is good about this. Hard to copy though, because it's mostly just really good typography, great balance, and a really, really excellent use of color. What's bad about this? I don't think there is a thing bad about this. Maybe it is the thing you could say is that the doing this visual element of it is taking a stand for something. It's a clear decision. So people will like it or not like it. So it's never going to be just in the background. Normally, I would say that is a good thing, but depending on the context, people could say it was a bad thing. That's the best I can do. Okay, this thing is beautiful. Does this work for the end user? I want this. Yeah, I want this. So I think it will work for the end user. Yeah. This is an A retro FM dial, really cool. It looks pretty much exactly like an old FM dial does, which is really cool. Also love the skeuomorphism of the actual dial itself, that it sort of tapers off on both edges and that it also has like a radial gradient coming down from above. Also love how the light seems to hit this entire upper thing. So it looks like there's a circle of attention here. It's a really cool effect by just adding this gradient effect to some of the things. Very cool. So this is going to take too long if I go through all of them, or if I do this like properly for all of them. So let's skip between the ones we like. So I like this. So what is this? This looks like a sleeping monitor with a heart rate. This is sleep, that's the heart rate. Why is there a completion percentage on the heart rate? No, that doesn't make any sense. I have no idea what this is. So this is not a great design because it doesn't tell you what it is. Now it's presented in a grid. He's just showing us stuff he's done in the last like couple of months or whatnot. So I'm not saying his design is poor. I'm just saying that in this presentation currently, we don't know what it is. So for this context, it doesn't make any sense. Altimeter looks really cool. Not sure I use for the list. I've never used an altimeter in my life. Water measuring reminder. Actually, I find this is the first time I can offer some real criticism here. So the contrast between the typography and the droplet icon being completely flat and the pills in the middle being this both flat and sort of skeuomorphic gradient mix doesn't really work for me. It feels like there's something off. It feels like we're like waiting for something to happen here. And I don't know quite what's intended. I don't think, basically, I don't think this gradient works. It's too strong. It takes over your perception of what's going on, and it makes it look like this is the visual style, but the visual style is way too flat for it. So we get two contrasting styles, which kind of make me go, what am I looking at? So not a huge fan. Not a huge fan, no. This is a really cool indicator. Love this. Not sure how you would actually make this. Absolutely love it though. This is a air quality indicator or air quality index, I guess, and it's the indication of it pushes the, I guess the gradient bar pushes up, and yeah, this is really cool. This also gives you this like super digital, you could not possibly do this in the skeuomorphic world kind of vibe, which I am all about right now. And yeah, absolutely love this. The gradient itself gives you an indicator of what's good and what's bad. You have a very clear information standpoint here that this is not healthy. Brilliant. I think it's great. Let's skip that, but let's look at this because this I love. Oh my God, look at this streak widget for reading, and it just looks awesome. It measures both how you're doing currently, like how far from the goal are you, and it gives you this super nice blobby effect for streaks. I love this thing. This looks freaking awesome. Very clear information. It's brown because reading is slow and boring. I love everything about this. It's great. What else? This is a really quite interesting calendar widget, actually. I was going to say it was really weird, but it absolutely isn't. So this is a horizontal calendar widget with with an indicator, a cursor that is very close to the FM dial. Very interesting thing. Very interesting thing. It's also slightly skeuomorphic, which is super odd. So it's super digital. You could not possibly do this skeuomorphically, but this indicator has a drop shadow. So it's both 2D and 3D. It's both flat and not. It's both super digital and skeuomorphic. I wonder if this is actually might be a trend that Snacky sort of discovering here, that we might start doing these halfway between skeuomorphic and super digital things. So we have the super flat, super digital design, and then just add skeuomorphic elements to it to make it more noticeable or to make it more interesting. This is something I would think about. That could be very cool to explore in a future design. Like, could I add a dash of skeuomorphism somewhere, just a drop shadow to a thing that, like, maybe it's one of those groupy designs or GUI designs that we looked at, but the GUI thing that lops off might have a drop shadow because now it's above something else or something. I don't know. Could be very, very cool. Not going in this, but I want to look at two more. This one, the standing indicator that the iPhone should have. This looks awesome. It's very clear. Love the fact that this is also a very interesting choice here because the standing indicator on iOS today is digital, meaning it's either on or off. You either stood up or you didn't. But Sneaky here chose to make it gradient. So you could hit the goal or you could be progressing towards it, but not quite, which I actually think makes a lot more sense, especially since we're talking about standing up during the course of an hour. Like it should probably be like you should be moving around this many minutes per hour, and that would give you this type of gradient or progressive sort of result instead of the digital one. Also coming back, this is more glow effects. Very interesting because it's also not really a super digital thing. It's something that we mostly see in skeuomorphic design. So very cool that this happens again. The same thing is going on here. So this is a loading indicator, which I find super interesting for several reasons. So the charging icon itself actually affects the size of the loading bar. So it pushes out these little dots. Really freaking cool and weird. And it has all the information. No, wait, this is not a charging indicator. This is a battery left on your car thing. So I guess you are charging it, but you can also drive 109 kilometers for an hour and 42 minutes at the current pace. I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly, so I'm probably going to give you a fail on this. Like, I should probably have more context, of course. Like, again, this is presented in the grid. So with a little bit more information, we probably would understand it. But I love the look of this. Like, I love how incredibly simple it is. And at the same time, just by highlighting the cursor with this effect of the dots flowing out a little bit and the glow effect makes it feel like this is just standing out so much. It's a very, very interesting thing. And now I think like all of these have, I'm starting to think that all of these have elements of skeuomorphism in them. And maybe this is why I think it's so good. It's also very, very interesting to see tiny things of skeuomorphism starting to pop back in. And it's not from the things that I would have assumed they would be. Like I would have assumed people would go back to textures specifically, because textures, like the reason people love drop shadows is because it gives a very flat interface some sort of texture. You're looking at it and it gives you this indication of, oh, there's a bump here, there's a thing there. And the human sort of mind loves that. We don't love when things are too sleek, too flat. We love textures. So I thought that was the thing that was going to happen. But here, he's using completely different things to denote similar ideas, but not really textures, not really like surfaces, but rather just adding these really tiny cues that you would find in skeuomorphism instead, which is really cool. But to be fair, like I don't think this texture works. This drop shadow really works. This, I don't know what even to call this. Like this thing really, really works. So there's a give and take, right? That's always true for design, and I love to see somebody exploring so many different things like this. Go follow Yevon if you want to see more cool little. I guess they're mostly Apple Watch and it's not called Apple Watch, is it? Yeah, Apple Watch and CarPlay or Apple Car, whatever, CarPlay designs. So many cool little things that we can learn from just by following at SneakyQQ on X. Really, really interesting stuff. And anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for hanging out. This is a daily stream where I pick something off the internet that looks cool or is very well made, and we look at it and we try to learn from it by checking out what is good about this, what is bad about this, and would this work for the end user. And to just give a quick indication of what we think of Snuggy's widget things here, they look freaking great. There's so much good stuff to take away from this, especially the combination of skeuomorphic elements in flat designs. The only bad things I can really see are things that look like you tried something and it didn't work out, which is like creativity at its best. And would it work for the end user? Most of these would definitely work. Totally recommend giving Snacky a follow. Have a good night. See you later. Bye-bye.